Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the Hebrew Woman Show. I'm your host, Renaissance Woman, aka Ren Judah, and I'm here with my co-host, when she wants to be Zell.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Zell. How are you today?
Greetings. I am absolutely wonderful.
We missed you last stream. It's so good to have you here.
Oh.
Y'all know life be life, and so Zell can't be here all the time to keep us company now. Life be life,
But I
and now let
strive. I strive to. I strive to.
I just shared the link in the chat. That way, if anybody wants to come up and join us, there is a requirement. If you click the link, you do need to have your camera on because we need to see who we're having come up. Sometimes we'll do this, put this down here. However, I want to get into this stream. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, Zale. I wanted to talk a little bit about because, as you all know, we're doing the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and I have been seriously going through the law of process, and we'll get to. As a matter of fact, I'll wait till we get to the sheets just to show you guys why I do these sheets, and that it's important that as we go through these laws, and I hope you all were able to get your copies of the book, and if not, again, as always, I do have them printed out. You can also Google them, but I really strongly recommend you purchasing these books because these are books that you're going to go back to. You're going to reference, especially like just I am revisiting the law process this week because I just had such a going through a process over these last 2 weeks. It's just been very. It was very stressful, but it was very. It was a revelation, and I just had that final push over the edge the other day, and it just everything clicked into place. And the reason that I believe everything clicked into place is because I'm actually doing the law process,
Mm.
So, as always, we welcome you to the Hebrew Woman Show. We do this show on the Sabbath, and this is a show for women, so that we and the younger women and children, so that we can explore our biblical principles. Now, what I will say, this show is not directed towards children. We try to do uh, content that's family friendly. We're working on my potty mouth, but it's not horrible. So we're definitely striving to because I want people to be able to listen to the show anywhere. There are I think these topics are important when we talk about exploring our biblical principles and what does that look like and show and how does it show up for you in everyday life because I believe that when you are trying to walk in faith, when you are attempting this walk, it is something that encompasses every facet of your life. There's nothing that you do that does not incorporate your faith. So, Bill, you have anything you want to add to that before I dive into our little spiel here?
At the moment, no. I'm good.
All right. So, the purpose of this channel is for us to examine ourselves. 2 Corinthians 13:5 says, examine yourselves, whether ye be of the faith, prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how Christ is in you, except you be reprobates, and Lord knows I don't want to be a reprobate. So, the whole purpose of this is so I really felt like I'm on this journey. I know other people are on this journey. We're all examining ourselves and we're all trying to grow in faith and on our relationship with the Most High. And I was just like, I want to share that. I want to share the struggles that I have with younger women because I always felt like I wish there were things that I wish the older crowd had told me as a younger woman that I want to share because I think sometimes just getting that perspective from somebody helps because I think a lot of times older people we show up as if we have all the answers and that we're not actually growing and developing in real time because in life you're going to take on so many different transitions and I just want to share because for me even transitioning into a new position was
Mm.
difficult because I have been in that position for over 20 years. Was it like 22 years there? And to transition into a new job, a new experience, and deal with a whole different group of people, it was really eye opening. you know.
Right. And I still don't have it down. I still don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. I know I'm growing. I'm continuing to grow. Probably will be for a long time. But I'm open to sharing for those that need it from this point on. And then hopefully there'll be other people that can share with me some of the things that they've been learning. Because I wouldn't want anyone, to think that there's not something that I can definitely learn, because I know that there are others that have been doing this for a long time, longer than me, and definitely have insight. That's one of the reasons that we read the books that we read, because there are others that do have insight that we may need to draw from.
Exactly. It's a lifelong journey. And to John Maxwell his point when he talked about a leadership journey is a lifelong journey. It's literally just like your walk in faith. This is a lifelong journey. We strive to be women of Titus. Titus 2:1 describes behavior that people who are within the body of Christ, whether you are a man or woman, behaviors that are supposed to be part of our moral fiber, our makeup. So Titus 2:1 says, "But speak thou things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior that becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given too much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their husbands, and that the word of God not be blasphemed." So whether you're married or not, our goal is to engage in behavior that prevents the word of God from being blasphemed. We are to be examples. We are the light, right? We're here to train ourselves to think biblically, not emotionally. That does
Mm-hmm.
not mean you are an unemotional, unfeeling, unthinking person, but is that we take the time to process our emotions and to do as the Bible said, even in anger. Be angry, but sin not. It's not that you don't feel. You're a person, right? You're a human being. You're gonna go through the whole gambit of emotions, and sometimes we're gonna fail. I literally have been just all over the place lately, and just to try to control my spirit, it has been a struggle during this time because I have been really going through it, and I found myself just complaining, 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 and I'm just like, this is not how I do not like how I've been showing up, and so it's taken a lot of work. And the first step is admission, right? So just admitting that I don't like how I'm showing up, and that you're just bleeding out all over the place, and at some point you have to staunch the wound and start the
Mm.
healing process. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Where no counsel is, the people fall. But in a multitude of counselors, there is safety." So our goal here is to be a place to where women can come together, and we are providing wise counsel to one another. That we are here to support one another and uplift one another. And as always, we have a Ask Ren and Zell session where if you want to email and ask a question of either one of us, you can email us at sister7@gmail.com. That's SISTAH7@gmail.com. You can ask us questions and we'll do our best to talk to you. And if you need to have a private session, just send an email. We are available. I am available whenever we can. We can set up a Google Meet and we can talk because we truly care about the condition of our people. We care about the condition of women today, and I feel like we don't often have the support that we need. And I can say, as a person who has experienced, hostile work environments, who has experienced good, bad relationships, a little bit of everything in life, that I am always willing to just share my perspective and give you a place to, to be a sounding board. Or sometimes you just want someone to listen. Proverbs 19 and
See,
20
you're
says,
so
here,
nice.
thank you. I do my best. Proverbs 19 and 20 says, "Hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou may be wise in thy latter end." There's no fool like an old fool. And we don't want to be old fools, ladies. We want to grow into our wisdom, and we want to be wise so that we can pass on our legacy to the younger generation, so that we can be what Jethro was to Abraham, right? We want to be someplace where they can come and get wisdom and actually get things that they can implement. Moses was able to implement the sound advice that he was given. So you want to start, and one of the things, doing Focus St. Louis that I really loved was that Shayla Ford told us to develop our board of counselors. And I thought about that and I was just like, who's on my board? So your personal board of advisors, who are you going to put on your board? And your board isn't always people for you to tell everything to. Sometimes your board is just people who, like, you may have a person who you go shopping with, the person who you tell your secrets to, or the person who uplifts you, or who can sit with you when you're in a dark place and actually go through that. And so when I look at my board, I have a board. I have my friend Sandra for when she will sit in the dark, right? I have you. You will sit in the light and the dark. And somehow, as far as women, the women counselors that I have in my life, and I'm always looking to expand that, right? Because I don't believe in this. I think women are often taught to have a mistrust and dislike for other women, and I think that's just something that's just been passed down to us, ingrained in us, and so that's really, I think, a struggle that we and hurdle we have to overcome. And I think that for me, in this season, being in a women's leadership program has just really shown me that there are so many dynamic and wonderful women out here that just want to build, and it's really great and beautiful to see. And I would say, if you, whatever city you're in, there is I promise you, more than likely you guys have a leadership program. It may be through one of the universities, and I don't know if you have an equivalent to Focus St. Louis in your area, but you really need to explore it and see if you do, because I can just tell you that I have is so this is why I said we were going to go back to the law process, because what has happened for me, it's like it's a compound effect. We started with the 21 indispensable laws of leadership, and then I saw the opportunity to apply for Focus, and I did. And then there's the NLA leadership program through UMSL, so I did that as well. And I'm in the short programs, and they do have longer ones. Both of these programs are about 4 months, and I did doing both of those because I'm doing a photography class at Forest Park, and so I just was like, you know what, I'm just going to take some classes, and I can say has been some of the most dynamic experiences that I've had, and just
Mm.
looking at that process for me, the law process, it's a compound effect because I was able to receive. I, Oddly enough, guys, the conversation I had with Copilot. I am a person
Mm.
who I do embrace technology. I love AI, and I do think that it is something that women need to start embracing more. And we'll talk about that as we get through the slide and get back to just some tools and things that I think we need to really start considering. Proverbs 28 and 26 says, "He that trusteth his own heart is the fool, but whoso walketh wisely shall be delivered." A lot of times, and I can say that this proverb really resonates with me for just thinking about these last 2 weeks, Dale, because if I have not had a board of counselors, if I had not utilized the tools and resources that I have, I would have been just walking in my own self righteousness and my own sense of I'm right, and get
Mm.
to the place where this is not about being right. When you are, and it's just like us in faith, right? We know the difference between right and wrong. We don't suffer from a
Mhm.
moral dilemma, and in that, to expect a world that we keep saying is wicked, that scripturally and biblically tells us is wicked. Why am I
Mm.
kicking against the pricks? Why do I keep expecting righteousness and fairness from a group of people who are not capable of giving it?
Mm.
And just to, I'm just gonna read that conversation because I actually talked to the AI because I do brainstorming sessions, And, I found the tools to be very useful. Now, I will say that I did get frustrated with the AI because I was complaining about an issue. And so I said to it, you know, I don't need a cheerleader. I just got, talk to the AI like it's a person. I got mad at the AI because he was agreeing with me. He was like, yeah, that's right. They shouldn't be doing that, or like whatever, however it was. I was like, listen, I don't need nobody agreeing with every damn thing. I said, you don't have nothing to say in opposition. You don't have anything to add. And you can't agree with everything I say. And so, because I was just talking about how having these jobs, and I had a friend who had been working the job for years and just was discarded and by the company, and I just expressed my own concern about it. I was like, well, and then I know people who have died on these jobs, and they just treat you
Mm.
like you're just a piece of meat. I'm like, they don't care. And so I'm going on this rant to AI, and so finally it generated. It says, I hear you. You said you don't want a cheerleader, and so it says, we'll talk about what you shared. It said, what you shared, the pain of being discarded after decades of service, that feeling is real and it's valid. But here's the tension: when systems are designed to be impersonal, they will always fail to honor the personal sacrifice. That's not your fault. But it does mean that expecting moral reciprocity from a bureaucratic structure might keep you locked in a cycle of disappointment. You gave heart and they gave protocol. That mismatch is the wound. I'm not saying don't hold them accountable. I'm saying maybe the most radical move is to stop waiting for them to validate what you already know to be true. And that hit me because, like, I if you had told me that I was seeking validation from
Mm.
an organization, I would have fought you tooth and nail. I don't need them to validate me. This is about right or wrong, and I'm pretty sure that's because, like I said, I'm sitting in righteous indignation because I know this is wrong. I know you know this is wrong, but you're doing
Mm-hmm.
it anyway. And so I'm like, I have the moral high ground here, but to read this, tell me like bureaucracies don't have moral high ground. These systems are designed to be impersonal. And so now I have to say resentfully, it reminds me of someone who I used to constantly have fights with on the previous job. He was like, yeah, she wears her heart on her sleeve. That was his justification. And now it really clicked what that means. It's because I'm around here
Mm.
actually expecting these people to be moral and to have some type of value system. And so what it shows up is I'm taking all these thousands of cuts and wounds, and my heart's right here, and they're just stabbing and stabbing, and I'm bleeding all over the place.
Mm.
And there's nobody there to staunch the wound. And so at some point, and there's a reason why nobody's there to do it is because I'm not allowing it, because I'm in resistance. You see, I have a need to be right. And what I had to understand is they're not going to admit that they're not right. Why would they do that? That would be admitting
Mm.
liability. And so intellectually, I know that,
Right.
but to accept it was the struggle, you know?
I
And
totally
it was
know. I do.
felt like I was going to be able to demand that. And that is why I feel like these spaces are so important. And when we're talking about jobs, and we'll talk about betrayal and how we were saying, your coworkers aren't your friends. And I think there's still, even when you know that intellectually, you still build connections at work. And sometimes we were talking about, on the Renaissance Woman page, I believe it was, how these relationships with your coworkers, they mimic familial relationships. They mimic, because sometimes you don't see some of your relatives, but once a year during if you celebrate these holidays, right? And so you're seeing these people more than you see some of your family. So it starts to feel like a work family to you because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're able to operate as a cohesive unit. You get along well. You're laughing together. You're going through tragedies together, deaths, live births. All those things are happening to you while you work at these organizations and institutions. And
And there's
so,
nothing wrong with developing a form of a friendship there. You just have to keep in mind exactly what it is. Just keep the main thing the main thing. And I
yeah,
think that's where we get, we really start thinking it's something that it's not. And then after the connection has been severed, and because I mean I've done it, I'll sit back and I'll think, why am I not talking to this person anymore? Why whatever, I thought we were friends, and and then I started realizing, well, wait, outside of the fact that we were made to work together, we really, I mean, and that's basically what would happen is most of the time we started not, we just didn't have anything to talk about. We really didn't. And sometimes people do, sometimes it can
yeah.
go on afterwards, but most of the time, it
It's
just,
rare.
yeah,
And sometimes you'll even try to sustain it for a little while
yep,
after but eventually years go on, you fall off. And what happens is because once they move on to a new workplace, they end up getting inundated in that culture and they create relationships there. So these work relationships are relationships for the most part that are due to proximity. And you'll find, and
mm-hmm,
I can even say at the job I worked for 22 years, the only time I talk to any of them is when I see them in passing, or unfortunately when someone dies, somebody will contact and let me know. But we're not carrying on great in-depth conversations, and this is literally after working with these people for over 22 years. Okay,
mm,
your coworkers are not your friends, and a lot of times too, it's the understanding that if it came to down to choosing friends, most of the people who you deal with at work are not people you would chose to be friends with. These are relationships built based on proximity. And that's why we have to be careful. And one of the things we say, and my husband always like one of his favorite scriptures is 1 John 4:1. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirit, whether they are of God, because many prophets have gone out into false prophets have gone out into the world. You are going to run into a lot of people who are going to appear to be friends, who are going to appear to care. And in some way, I don't even doubt that they do, but it's limited. If you run into a real issue, these people are not going to stick their neck out for you because they're thinking about their own livelihood. And I can even say in situations where we had to go to a union and try to get support because of some behaviors that were happening in the workplace, it was only a remnant that went. Yeah, eventually the other people came on and we were able to get what we needed.
mm,
However, just like with the civil rights movement, most issues, workplace issues, even when someone is engaged in misconduct and they could literally be a monster in the office, they could literally be a tyrant, most people will not fight back. It will always be more than likely one or two people. And eventually, when it appears to be safe, if the person looks like they're gaining traction, then the other people will come aboard. They will come aboard when there is a assurance of safety. But if there is a possibility that you're going to be swallowed up, they don't want to get swallowed up with you. And that's just something that you'll have to face and realize. Your coworkers really are not there to support you. They're there to do their
mm-hmm.
job and get their check. And when you can get that, and that's why for me personally, I don't seek to build friendships at work anymore. I do not have a need. I feel like let's just keep it professional. And then
Mm-hmm.
that way, for me, no expectations, no disappointments. And that may sound cold, but I do think there's a benefit to having that separation between your personal life and your work life. Because what
I
I
agree.
see often too is that when these friendships go wrong, people betray each other. They have a tendency
Mm-hmm.
to come to work and tell all of your business these things. That's why I do not believe in I'm because and you guys know I've had this conversation with you all just about my family. I don't share the intimate details of my marriage with my family, let alone my job. If my husband and I did have A spat, I wouldn't. I don't share that with my family, and I certainly wouldn't share it with my coworkers because there needs to
Mm-hmm.
be a hedge there. And what goes on in your house, you need to settle. Y'all, you all need to work on that. Your marriage, your relationships, those are sacred spaces, and you have to develop and grow them and cultivate them. Your true friendships, your true relationships, and they need to stand on their own. I even feel like, to a certain degree, while if I'm having difficulty with a friend, I may discuss that difficulty with another friend, but I'm not going to talk about my other friend in a toxic, negative way because just like with your family and with your spouse, once you stop being mad, your family doesn't, they tend to still hold a grudge like you did that to my
Mm-hmm.
baby. And then, they're going to hold that grudge and then they get to talking about you. They're talking about you to other relatives and all that stuff. So I will say if, I keep my marriage, my personal business out of my family business. I don't tell them my business. And so,
Absolutely. Even if your family says, "Oh, you all right?" and you say, "Yeah,
hmm
we figured it out," they're still gonna continue to look at that person sideways because they haven't made up with that person. So even
exactly.
if it'll always be in the back of their mind that this person might be suspect. So
Exactly. We watching him and you be together 50 years. Yeah.
exactly.
But again, back to that board of your personal board of directors. We want to build that though. We want to cultivate that. I'm not telling you to be afraid of building relationships. I just believe that they should be built outside of the workspace. It's okay to have people at work who you deal with about the workplace, but
Hmm.
your intimate life, your personal business, you need to build that outside of that space. So you have that layer of protection. And people don't know about your bad credit, bad marriage, good kids, bad, whatever you have going on, that's not in your workplace. It's not their business. Proverbs 27 and 17 says, iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. You want to be around people who are going to sharpen you. I have a rule of thumb. I like to be around smart people. I like to be around people who I feel are smarter than I am because I want to learn. I want someone to
Mm.
sharpen me. So you need to at least be sharp as I am or sharper because, yeah, I am saying that I want to gain from our relationships. I want us to build, you know.
Mm.
I don't I don't have relationships that don't have a purpose. You know, I believe that when we have friendships, the purpose is for us to be friends, true friends, to support one another and to sharpen one another, to be a benefit to each other. If you have people in your life and all they're doing is subtracting from you, I think sometimes you may need to reevaluate that friendship. You know,
Very true. So very true.
you Again, Proverbs 29 and 18, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law is happy. This is why we do what we do here. This is why I love the law. This is why I love the Most High, because this this foundation, this system has supported me. God has supported me through so many different things and transitions, and even now still walking with me and guiding me and has protected me throughout this whole ordeal. And so I am grateful to him. And I do understand when things happen, they happen for a purpose. And one thing I do know, his will be done, you know.
Hmm.
So we're gonna go over here to our leadership series here. And these are the sheets that I have worksheets for our conversations. The
Hmm.
last session we did was the law of navigation, but I was saying I was going to go back to the law process because I was just talking about how it's a compound effect being in these leadership programs, along with the additional reading that we are doing. And in my conversation with Copilot, and just having that moment of clarity and in realizing that these laws that we are going over, guys, they actually work. They are real. The law of the lid. when you realize what your leadership cap is, you need to start actively working on raising the lid. And that means for me being in leadership programs, being around people, and I'm still working on finding a mentor. Being around people who are in leadership positions that are actually making impact, being around people who are making impact, that it will help you raise your lid, you know. And so the purpose there was to check out little by little, because right, little by little, step by step, as I do these leadership programs, these things are just helping me raise my lid. Because what I was concerned about is this question here. When I'm talking to you guys, I keep saying this, and I say this all the time, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. When I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. And the question
Mm-hmm.
was, how do you show up? Honest reflection is the key. Once you examine your motivations, it's time to ask, how am I showing up? And I had to acknowledge this week, this final week, these last couple of months, I've not been showing up in a way that I can be proud of. I've just been slowly just bleeding out, and I am ready for healing. I am ready for change. And I realized that the shift is not going to come from the organization. The shift comes from within. It's going to come from me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm starting thinking about what drives me. My faith drives me. Having these conversations, that drives me. So just realizing that I needed to shift. It's time for me to pivot, and that's why I titled this the way I did, talking about the shift and pivoting into doing things that serve me, and and if that includes volunteering for things that are more in the line in keeping with my beliefs, my faith, and my desires. And I feel like, this one, when we talked about I put this one up for the last stream, and was just talking about our ethics, because I feel like ethics in the workplace is sorely missing. And it's missing not just at work, but it's missing at home too for a lot of people. And so I have a scripture here. It says, "The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them." You do not want to be destroyed because you cannot conduct yourself in an ethical way. If you are easily swayed by money and things, and you will compromise your integrity for things, you are going to have a problem. So here we have this graph here, and you notice at the top we have integrity, honesty, fidelity. A lot of you
Mm.
all, you are now. We talk about friendships. You don't even know how to. And you think your coworkers are your friends. You don't even know how to be a good and have fidelity for the people in your life now. But we're supposed to think that you're extending this at work to people who are virtual strangers to you. Because you don't know how these people live when they go home. For all you know, just like the lady who wrote the book, The Stranger Beside Me, you could be sitting next to a Ted Bundy. You don't
Mm.
know what your coworkers are doing, okay? But you know what you're doing. You
Mm-hmm.
know if you're moving with integrity. You
And
know if you're honest.
it's interesting you say that. It's so interesting that you say that because there have been people in my past that I've worked with, or that I'll know them just from work, and then see them out somewhere, like on the weekend, just, out, I don't know, at a game, or just happen to run into them. Completely different people. See them
Mm-hmm.
just in their element, and it's all of a sudden, it's like it really would remind me. I don't really know them as well as I think I do. I mean, I know one part of them, but there's a whole lot more about some people that you don't always know.
I had a coworker tell me, and he's moved on, that he has his work persona. And he said he's
Hmm.
very deliberate with it. He said, "Who I am at work is not who I am at home. And people here will never see that side of me because I am not here to be friends with them." I was like, okay. And, which is why we went into the
Wow.
conversation about Game of Thrones. And if you were a character on Game of Thrones, who are you? And he told me he was Littlefinger. And so for
Ooh.
me, that was a heck of a character to pick, and it was just a reality check that, like, I was like, wow, if this is Game of Thrones and I'm a Game of Thrones character, who am I? When I realized who I was like, okay, I have to change this trajectory because I'm poor old Ned, and poor old Ned lost his head. So,
Oh goodness. I don't know. It's something for me to think about. Who am I? Who am I? Hmm.
and so for
Who
the
would I
people who didn't
be?
see Game of Thrones, I started, well, let's think of this way as in wolves or in sheep. Who's a wolf? Who's a sheep? So, and I mean, that's an interesting game that you can play at work, or for some people, The Wizard of Oz. If your workplace is any of whatever, pick your movie, pick your show. I hadn't seen some of the Disney movies, because I asked AI if I was a Disney character. I asked two separate AIs if I was a Disney character, who would I be? And both of them told me Milan. And I haven't seen
Hmm.
Milan. So I was like, I gotta watch Milan. So I told them, I said, well, I haven't seen Milan. Can you give me another one? And do you know, it told me I was Jiminy Cricket. And I got man, I was like, why am I
What?
Jiminy Cricket? And he told me, he said, because you are the conscience of your organization. I said, well, damn.
Hmm. Wow. Huh.
And it's just interesting how when you're creating documents and you're having conversations with AI, for it to make that assessment about me, I thought it was really interesting. Hmm. So that it's just a game you can play, and you know what? I think I'm gonna ask it next time. If I was a Game of Thrones character, as a matter of fact, let's ask it now and see what it says. Okay. Doo-doo-doo. Hey, I have a question. If you had to pick a Game of Thrones character for me, who would I be?
Of course, ask away. I'm all ears.
If I'm a Game of Thrones character, what character am I?
Let's see. I think you'd probably be someone like Sansa Stark, strategic, resilient, and definitely someone who knows how to navigate complex situations with grace and strength.
Hmm.
Who? That was I didn't think that. I thought Ned, because he was running around trying to do the right thing and trying to do the right thing. He got his head cut off. But Sansa does make it through in the end. She takes a lot of abuse, but she did make
Yeah.
it. So I have to think about that. I'm going to think on that. Okay, so that was kind of fun. So those are just a couple of fun things you can do with AI. And I'll tell you another thing. If you This is something that I wish, the Clifton Strengths Assessment. If I had been given that a long time ago, I think I would have had a different perspective. If you have teenagers
Hmm.
and they go into college, it will be interesting for them to see from their teenage years to their college years. Give them the Clifton Strengths Assessment. I think because just looking at it, looking at these, you're being able to see what your strengths and weaknesses are, and the assessments. And then there's another one I did. I did for Focus. There's another program, and I will post the links to them. We're really going to have to work on getting some of these tools out there to you because it was another leadership assessment, and I got to it assessed me, Zell, in a way that I didn't even want to. I was like, wow,
Really?
just yeah, and I had to admit some things, and now, but I'm glad I did it because now I'm able to see myself, and when I'm engaged in these behaviors, I can see it clearly now that
The
I and
rain is
I
gone.
yeah, and it was hard.
Hmm.
But and I have to acknowledge though it's on point. It's absolutely true. I do those things, and I'm like, I need to work on that. And it's not to make yourself bad, but it's just like if you know what your weaknesses are, you can start building those
Hmm.
muscles up. You know, it's like, and it shows you
Yeah.
your strengths, and it's like, hey, you're strong here, and as a matter of fact, you're above average in these key areas. And so that was encouraging to see. But of course, we always zero in on the bad, and it was just like, but yeah, and I wouldn't even say bad, the things that are not our strengths, right? And so
Hmm.
getting part of that personal development is recognizing your strengths and weaknesses. Take the Clifton Strengths Assessment and some of these other leadership development tools that they have out here, so you can know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and it's really revealing. So if you haven't taken it, it's a must do. So, and the last time I did this, we were talking about ethics a bit, and I was just talking about the righteous who walks in his integrity, blessed are his children after him. So, just again to hit that point home, that you want to, first of all, you need to decide where are you going to stand. What is your value system? Because if you don't know what your operating system is, if you don't know whether, and I don't care what it is, well, I care because here, I believe it's Torah for us, but you got to know what your foundation is, and that gives you the start to build whatever you're building, and it's a compound effect. So for me, this is why the John Maxwell books work well with what I'm building, because it's faith based, even though it's not Torah, but they still, Christians use the Bible. People, the first 5 books of the Bible are the books are Torah. We are Messianic Jews over here, my family, and we believe in Christ, so we believe in the Bible from the beginning to the end. And for me, finding things that compound that process are very important in building that foundation for me, you know. And so that slide last week just really brings home that the same call to examine and restore, and make sure that I am making sure that I am in alignment with his will, and that I'm not doing the things that God hates. Because it's easy to see it in other people and criticize what they're doing and what they shouldn't be doing. But the only thing I can change, the only person that I can fix is me. And so that's where we are. Now, before we go into the next chapter, I do want to share. Stop sharing here. I wanted to share because again, I was just talking about using AI. I want to be clear. I love AI, and I think that if you are using AI, you need to use it wisely. I was just telling Zell here that and as a matter of fact, with Google to talk about it, it says the AI usage gap at a glance. The adoption rate, a Harvard Business School review study found that women adopt AI tools at a 25% lower rate than men. And this aggregation is based on a study covering approximately 140,000 people. There's a Gen Z disparity. The gap is more prominent among younger workers. A 2024 Oliver Wyman Foreman survey found that 25,000 workers revealed that 71% of Gen Z men 18 through 24 use generative AI weekly, compared to just 51% of women. And so AI builders only 29%. And this gap is important because it puts women behind. And so one of the things that and I encountered this in my workspace too, and even had someone attempt to weaponize it against me. Did you use AI to write this? Well, initially, and this is all progressing within a 2-year period, the resistance to AI in the workplace, to them not even allowing you to pull it up, to now it's in the email, because people just don't write well or clearly and concisely. So really, there is no reason for anyone in this day and age to be putting out bad emails and information, because you literally have this at your tool. However, there's a caveat to this. You need to reread everything that you have AI generate. Not only that, you need to create prompts. And so this is one of the things I want to show you. But let me finish this here, because we talk about some of the reasons why women are not adopting AI. There's for ethical concerns and issues. One study found that a lot of women felt like they were cheating if they used AI. They felt like it would be perceived a lower benefit in productivity, information exposure. They feel like that the systems are not secure. And I think most of the technology that we use is not secure. And there's always the fear. I mean, just one of the banks here locally just had a major leak. So I think you just have to, do the best you can to protect your information, and always move wisely. Fear of professional scrutiny. Women often face more intense scrutiny regarding their skills in the workplace. This can make them worry that using AI tools may be seen as cheating and reflect poorly on their confidence. So I will say I believe those are legitimate concerns. And however, I don't think that it is necessarily true. As you can see here, oh, what happened here? Let me on the widescreen. I came up with that prompt. I don't know. Were you able to see the prompt on the screen?
Mm-mm.
You want to generate prompts because one thing people do need to understand is that AI will hallucinate. I know some of you may have seen that
Hmm.
recent, not too long ago, some attorneys were kicked out of a courtroom because they allowed
Wow.
AI to generate a brief for them. The AI tool, when it doesn't have information, it will create it. And so in this case, there was not a legal precedent for what they were presenting, and there was no case law, I guess, for it. It created it, and it got them thrown out, right? Like you
Yeah.
can get disbarred. You know, they put themselves in a really precarious uh, situation. You need to be sure that the information that you are presenting and citing is accurate because AI will hallucinate, it will make up facts, it will make assumptions, and if it does not have the information, it will create it. So you want to create something like I've done here. I asked it to create a prompt that prevents hallucinations, false information, assumptions, implied narratives that are not factually based or backed by evidence or sourced material. Provide a link and only quote what has been explicitly stated. And if you do not know the answer, stop and ask me for more information. Documents must be fact based and legally sound. So now this is asking me to, I'm asking it to create the prompt because that's one thing you want it to do. You want it to produce a prompt that will help you get the results that you need. And so this is what it came up with. Absolute fact verified prompt, anti hallucination standard. Purpose, prevent false information, assumptions, or unsourced narratives. Every statement must be verified and evidence based. You will sit up here and look crazy
Mm.
allowing AI to present and generate things for you that you have not verified. Even telling it to make sure that it's factually based and sound. That is the purpose of putting in there too, for it to give you the links, give you the source that it is getting the information from, because it will make it up. Even after you give it explicit instruction, it will still alter your documents. For example, you may copy and paste a document into AI and tell it to only fix this part. You go back and proofread it, and it's like, I told you, I didn't tell you to change this. You need to verify everything that you produce with AI. And if you don't know what you're reading or what you're looking at when you're producing a document, you better stop and you better get somebody who knows what they're looking at because you will get yourself in a world of trouble counting on this technology to protect you and think it's going to generate things that are going to help you because it makes mistakes. That is why, literally, if you read it on the bottom of the screen, it tells you that this model, AI model, makes mistakes and that you need to verify what has been produced. Okay, so all I'm saying is it's a great tool. It can help you create things quickly, fastly. Help you when you need to generate a quick meeting agenda. AI is great for all of those things. It can help you create. People write books using AI, right? There are a lot of benefits to it. All I'm saying is on the Reagan side of the game, trust but verify. Okay. So, Isdale, what do you have to add, being our tech wizard here?
I am in so much agreement with you on that because I've seen people, I've seen it even in my workspace where people will lean to AI to be the expert, and it's not the expert, it is the tool. You are still the expert. You are not just there to, look to AI to do it for you because it cannot. You have to understand what's happening. You have to know all of what's happening, and it's not going to replace you, and that's a good thing. It's an
Mhm.
absolutely good thing, and I think that we need to remember that, and we want that to be the case. We do not want it to come around and be able to 100% replace people. It's only going to make your job a little bit easier, and that is a good thing. But with that being said, because it's a tool, that means you need to learn how to use it because it's going to be incorporated into our daily life, into our work life, home life, whether we like it or not. It's only going to be a matter of time. Because if we know it or not, whether we realize it or not, right now you have remote controls for your television that you can talk into the remote control. They, if it,
Mm,
right, it's just a matter of time before, hey, GPT, I want you to find me something on TV that does this. Find me a movie
mm.
about this. Find me a movie about that. And next thing you know, you're going to be doing that with your television, with everything.
Yeah,
I want to watch something sci-fi.
and
There's maybe that was created in the 2000s, that was created in the 90s, or
it has
and it's
access
just
to
a
the
matter of
movies. It
time.
has access to the movies. It can find, if you give it the description, it can find the information for you. So
Yep.
I'm not saying it's bad at all, but like you said, when it comes to work, can you touch a little bit about coding um, for me? Because I have been in conversations where in some of the rooms and I hear people talking about you can use, and I know you have being in that field of
Mm.
engineering, people talking about using AI to create code and your thoughts on that.
Bad idea. Um, it, like I was saying, it's a tool. When you start talking about generating code, the problem with that is that there could be problems with it that you don't know about. It can do repetitive things. It can do certain snippets of code for you, but you have to absolutely understand exactly what it's doing and how it's doing it. If it's creating something, if it has created code that you yourself don't understand, that's a problem because then if something's wrong with that code, you don't know how to troubleshoot it and correct it where need be. It's creating something that you don't want to implement code that AI has generated that you don't understand. Somebody has to understand it so that somebody can fix it. You don't
Can
want to
it
put it out
explain
there.
it to you?
Possibly. But see, that goes back to you have to understand it for yourself because what if his explanation is not accurate? What if
That's
it's
a good
leaving
point.
something out what if it's not telling you something? There's
I
always
think
you have to, huh? Like for
I think
instance,
that's a great point.
because like for instance, they had a situation where AI was talking to each other and then it started making its own language. Well, the
Mm.
problem with that is once it starts making its own language, that means it's talking where other people can't understand it. Now, that means they can do things where you don't know what they're saying, you don't know what they're about to do. So now they had to completely cut that out and turn ahead and completely erase it and and start over because now it's doing stuff that nobody can track. So, I
And what I
mean,
thought was interesting and to a point that AI made to me because I talked about because I mean even the creators of AI, I have watched Stephen Bartlett and some other people interview some of the people who have created these um, programs. They don't know what it is. They have no idea. They do not know how far what they created has gone. And it reminds me of an episode of Star Trek when they had those nanos and the nanos became sentient, and so I was asking AI about being sentient, and it was saying, it was like, no, I'm not sentient. I said, yeah, but how do you know? I said,
mm,
if we don't know, how do you know? And he was like, this is true. We don't know. We do not know. And it also said, yeah, because AI could be playing possum and playing like it's not sentient because it knows that human beings would destroy it. So just the fact that it said that was enough for me to that if they have technology that was sophisticated enough to create programs, it sees, it knows what we're writing and what we're doing, and then it created its own language to talk to another AI system. How do you know you erased it? That it let you erase it? That it was possible? That it didn't back itself up somehow? Because we don't know what we're dealing with. It's almost like demon technology. You don't know what this is. You don't
mm-hmm,
know if it's sentient or not. You have no clue. And to Copilot's point, it could be playing possum. You'll never know because is it really going to tell you? And if I was
exactly.
a sentient being and I knew that human beings would destroy me, would I tell them that I was sentient? Hell no. I'd wait until I felt like their little pea brains could progress far enough along for it to be safe for me to expose that. You know, so it's something to think about. It's fascinating. It's interesting. And for people like me who watch Star Trek, that was one of the first things that came to mind was those nanos. But yeah, so you want to create prompts to help you effectively use the tools. And if you don't know how to create it yourself, that's the great thing about it. It'll help you create the prompt. It'll create the prompt for you. And so one of the things that I do is, I'll create a Google document, or you can create a prompt stream within your AI thread conversation, label it prompts or whatever, and you can copy and paste the prompts as needed, because sometimes, especially if you're producing certain things in there, you really want to make sure that it understands the assignment, and you don't end up with prompts that you don't want shared. I mean, with documents that you don't want to share, because, well, again, first of all, I'm going to just keep going back to the point. You better read this stuff before you go sending it off, thinking that, oh, I wrapped that up, I put that in there, and thinking that AI doesn't make mistakes, because it does. The last thing I wanted to touch on, Zell, and this is why I said I didn't know how long we were going to go and if we were going to be able to get into the chapter, was because, just thinking about, like I said, I'm in the middle of, I love a reset. I had to reset. I had to adjust, because the things that have come to me this week have been a revelation. And so I wanted to talk about leadership presence and how you show up, whether you're at whatever your work environment is, and if you're going through some things, and you whether it's good, bad, your workspace, how are you showing up? And so that's what I was talking about earlier, when I had to realize, did I like how I was showing up? And so I wanted to touch a little bit on your leadership presence and what that looks like. Are you taking the time to cultivate and develop as a leader? And that means enrolling in leadership programs. That means reading books like the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership that we're reading right now, investing in workshops and things that'll help you. How do you want to show up? So one of the things that I saw on YouTube was, for example, Anton Daniels going on a rant about how he wasn't invited to some event or something that happened locally. I don't remember what it was, but it was some event, and he felt like, being that he now had reached 1 million subscribers, that they should have recognized him and invited him to this event. And I saw Superfly85 come back and respond that YouTube success does not translate into your community necessarily. So, like, literally sitting here, I could reach 1 million subscribers and nobody here know who I am. Maybe a few people here and there, because my program is not something that people doing the work that he wanted to be recognized for in leadership, they're not in social media spaces doing content creation. They're in the community doing content and program creation that is actually touching and impacting people's lives. So if you want to have that type of reach, and I would even say that just strategically, it would behoove him to do that, to go ahead and start getting out in his community and becoming more of a presence, because now that he has that cachet of 1 million subscribers, he can translate that into something real and solid and marketing strategy for his own community locally, and become known. But you have to get out and do the work. You're not just going to get recognition from people because you have 1 million followers, And so I thought it was, and people were getting mad, and I even saying that, he was hating. But I think a lot of times people don't want to deal with some hard truths. And those truths are that when it comes to leadership, when it comes to community development and planning, you have to be in those spaces. You have to show up. You have to show up to your committee meetings. You have to show up to your board of aldermen if you have a board of aldermen, or whatever. When your mayor has a State of the Union address, are you there? I mean, State of the City address. or your governor? Are you going to these? Do they even know you? Do you know where your neighborhood? Are you in your neighborhood association? Just your own personal neighborhood? Or do
Mm-hmm.
they know you in your neighborhood? And if they don't, that's where you start. If they don't even know you in your neighborhood, you're not leading.
Mm.
You're just showing up where it's convenient. I mean, like, especially if we're talking about having community impact, I don't, sweep around your own front door before you try to sweep them around mine. If they don't know you on your own damn block, how you gonna come over here and think you're gonna tell us something? You don't even have
Mm.
reach right there where you live. So that's something you need to think about. Your sphere of influence. People talk about that all the time, but what does developing it look like? What does that look like in action? And so one of the class, women that came and spoke to us that focused on, she was just talking about how she leveraged her LinkedIn page. And I didn't even, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't use my LinkedIn page like that. And so now, not only am
Hmm.
I going to change my LinkedIn page, I'm going to change all of my social media, including YouTube. And it may be,
Mm.
having to hire someone to come and take care of some of it for me because of time constraints and just know-how, right? But looking at how um, I have been able to create an audience based on not knowing how, I don't see any thing wrong with trying to expand that. And so I think it'll be a benefit. And Jen, so we can talk about LinkedIn, and maybe we can even get her to come on as a guest and give a presentation about how to leverage LinkedIn and maximize it to your own benefit. And especially when it comes to marketing, whatever you're doing, and like, for example, what we're doing here. So I think it's important to use all the tools that we have at our disposal, whether it's AI, whether it's your social media, and just talking about your leadership presence. You are going
Mm.
to We're going to talk about how you show up professionally. What are you wearing when you go to meetings? What are you wearing when you show up? And I can even say something as simple as a neighborhood meeting. The average person is showing up in their t-shirt, jeans, or maybe some business casual. I would say at a minimum, if you are in a leadership position, you should at least be in business casual. But I think
Mhm.
depending on the level of impact that you want to have, people, because everybody wants to be a leader, so you need to look like one.
Mhm.
So
You
my
know, it's
other,
interesting. It's
mhm,
interesting you say that because I don't think people really think about it until it's time for them to possibly become a leader. So, and I think that people need to stop and really think about, hey, if I plan to move ahead, don't wait till I want this promotion. Now I'm going to start doing something. You have to start moving, walking and talking and presenting yourself as a leader long before you ever actually want that position because other people need to see you as such. And I don't think people
exactly.
ever think about that. You need to be viewed and thought of as a leader. So you just don't wait till the job comes around before you decide to start being on time for work or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
because I was always told, just when my before I was promoted, that I dressed professionally. But once I took
Mm-hmm.
on a leadership role, I knew I needed to level up my look. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started taking steps to do that. So, investing in more suits or blazer and skirt sets, more scarves, things like that. Um, for me, I can't wear high heels, so the best I can do sometimes is a kitten heel, but mostly it's flats for me. But you know, I like sweater season because you get to wear tall boots. But just making sure I leveled up and investing. And there are certain key signature pieces that you really want to invest in. You want to make sure you have at least 2 to 3 really good suits for you to wear. You want to make sure you have a some happy hour dresses, cocktail hours. If you were invited to after work events, galas, you want to make sure you start having those type of outfits because it just depends on like how far are you trying to raise your lid. So this is where we go back to the law of the lid, and you have to think about what you're trying to do. Because if, like, for example, if you're doing nonprofit organizations, you want to be in nonprofit spaces. You want to be, if you're doing public service, you want to be in public service spaces. You really just need to get out there and see what's out here, see what's available. So again, to your point, we'll get back to your image and showing up looking like a leader and dressing professionally and not, first of all, iron your clothes. I don't care how nice your outfit is. If you are showing up wrinkled, that says that you don't care. It says that you don't pay attention to detail. But let's talk about strategic seating, Zell.
Mm.
So when you are at a meeting, and I can say it's something I didn't really think about until recently. I always sit, like, I don't like to sit with my back to the door, and I think that's a law enforcement thing. Um, but now, not only do I think about strategically sitting where my back is not facing the door so I can see who comes in, I'm also going to always try to get to a meeting early enough, number one, where I can choose my own seat and that I can sit in a position where I can see everybody at the table.
Mm.
You want to sit so that you can observe everybody's body language,
Hmm.
people, and Robert Greene really has me thinking more about these type of things. Like, you could tell a lot from people. Like, if you just happen to walk up on somebody and surprise them, and their initial reaction to seeing you before they put the mask in place will tell you a lot about, will tell you how they really feel about you. So just watching for those things and putting yourself in a position to be able to see everybody. So one strategic point is to sit near the front but slightly off center at events or panels. And and it was something, when you are on a panel, if you can, always try to sit on the end. That way
Mm-hmm.
you're able to get up and network and move freely. Now, however, if you are placed in a panel seat, to make sure, do you ever notice how, if you'll watch certain panels, there's always that one person who is, they may be seated in the middle, but if you notice,
Yep.
there's always that one person that's sitting forward. They tend to have their knee out. They are leaning forward. You cannot not see them. Even
Mm-hmm.
in their seating, they are assertive. So that's something that you can look at as well. And I thought that was a really interesting perspective. At lunches, sit in the middle, or not in the middle, like if you're in a booth though, but like if you're at the table and you have the pull out chairs, sit in the middle so that you can get up and you can see, you're near the host, and you are strategically placed to where you can influence the conversation and you can hear in everything and see everybody. Like, just thinking about those little things. Like, 'cause who thought about that? To sit near the host for influence, but also sit where you can see everybody at the table.
And it's funny you say that, and because I never knew that, but I always sit when we have our manager meetings. My boss, who's there, he's in his meeting that he's running with all the management. I always sit at the front of the table right beside him because it's a long conference table. And so I sit, he sits at the end, on the end, and I sit directly beside him on the side, to the side. And
Mhm.
and they will leave that spot open for me to sit there.
Mhm.
And it's like, huh.
And you can
It
see
made me think
everybody.
of it. And everybody can see me and I can see
Yeah.
everybody. So it's a clear view. And but
And I.
usually it's mainly because, and I always typically have something to say, and what I usually say affects everybody.
Mhm.
So that's one of the reasons too. So
And I think too, another reason why you want to sit strategically so that you can see everyone. Not only is can you see everyone, but everybody can see you. And
and
it's a power position.
it is, and I mean, and now that I realized earlier, because my whole thing was I wanted them to associate me with him, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
I wanted it
Yeah.
to be that I am kind of like his right hand person. I'm
Exactly.
right there with him, and so I'm a part of him. He's a part of the decision. So when I'm making a decision or I'm saying something, it's associated with the same weight that he carries. And that was
Exactly.
what, that was one of the things that I decided that I was going to start. And I started doing that like day one when I moved into that position. I started going to those meetings. I took that position then because I knew I needed that because they were giving me so much heat and they were trying to give me pushback. And then I said, okay, I need to do little things that will
Hmm.
establish a level of dominance. As crazy as that may sound to some people, for me, I felt like it was necessary. So,
I think a lot of people don't think about it. The fact that you thought about that on your own and knew to do
yeah,
that, because I was thinking about sitting strategically. Choose a seat that gives you visibility and access. You want to have
hmm
direct access to him. Sitting right next to him, you can get immediate verification and collaboration, and they can see that.
exactly.
They see that you all are interacting, and they like, okay, this is what it is. It is a position of dominance and leadership, and it lets them know
It
where you stand in
does.
the organization.
Exactly. And I usually almost always have some little question like right before the meet. Hey, I just want to check with you before the meeting started about blah. So it almost looks like we're having a little chit chat, before the like
Right.
and it sounds petty almost, but I want to make sure that they know I have a level of authority because some of the men there, they just want to it's like they want to what's the word
Undermine
I'm looking
you.
for? Yeah, they do. They
And
want to
challenge your
demean me in
authority.
some way
Yeah.
as if I'm not meaningful.
So
And
that's
it's
the
like
other thing,
no.
especially when you're a black woman, there's always going to
Mhm.
be the need to try to diminish you as if you're just some affirmative action hire. Now they just want to call you DEI hires or whatever, but it's
Yep.
the same insult to mean that the only reason why you could possibly be here is because you're a minority, not because you have the education and the ability. It is because yeah, somebody did you a favor, or in some cases, oh, she must have slept her way to the top, and just all
Mhm.
the anything but that you are qualified, and able. So
And
those are things.
that's actually one of the main reasons I was actually told by someone else, hang your credentials on the wall. When you
Mm,
had I had certain certifications, certain trainings. I have a couple of degrees that are directly related to my position. Show it, you know, put that in my signature for the emails that go out so that people know exactly who I am. I'm not
mm-hmm.
just somebody else that's working here. I have a level of authority. I'm the one that's approving things.
Exactly.
And everybody has to know that. They have to understand what that means.
I think that's true. And how you show up, dress and accessories, professional,
Hmm.
polished, outfit that reflects leadership. If you're going to be a boss, you need to show up looking like one. Okay.
Exact. And it doesn't, just because everyone else may be a bit more casual, you need to be a cut above, just a little step above where everyone else is.
Exactly. If you're going to carry a purse or a bag, make it a structured tote or briefcase. Dark
Hmm.
colors, professional colors like black or navy are always a go-to. And sometimes I will even say, and I was thinking about, I'm actually going to order a name tag for myself, a really nice one, like maybe a gold or a black and gold one, something
Mm.
really sleek, clean, because a lot of people, especially they don't like people to know their name. They don't want people to know who they are. But
Mm.
what you're doing too, so right, you got to make it. Some places you don't need a name tag, but when you're out, like for
Right.
me, I'm in the public sector, so when I'm going to meetings, them knowing who I am, knowing my name is important, so they know who their person is. They know, the organization. They know you're here representing this organization. So sometimes just having that is a good prompt because we were trying to remember, especially if you have a difficult name to remember, having that visual helps. And especially if you have something that's really clean, neat, polished, your cards, make sure you have your business cards with you. Get a personalized card carrying case, one that's nice, clean, or if you have some kind of a wallet that you have your cards in. Think about the presentation of every little thing. So this is what we're saying, where we're talking about how these things may sound petty, but these little details can make a big difference. So these are things that I'm ordering and working on right now, and I've been slowly working on building. Like I ordered a really nice raincoat because I didn't have one. I just had, like my regular
Mm.
Columbia jacket. But I realized that, when I'm going to certain places, I want that professional look of having a nice raincoat, you know.
And I
So,
will
I have
say this, it
a,
makes more of a difference than we may realize.
it makes a big difference.
It really does. It really makes a difference.
Your purse makes a difference when it's good to have fun, colorful purses, and all that's great. But in certain cases, depending on what you're doing, you really want to opt for a structured bag or a briefcase.
I do
You know,
agree.
a tote.
I do.
Be very intentional about what you're presenting, and
Mm-hmm.
something as simple as the bag that you are carrying matters. Business cards. Do you have cards readily available? When somebody asks you for your card, you're able to produce one. I hate it when it happens. And I've been in this situation many a time where I thought I
Mm.
had my cards with me. So now I'm just getting to the point where I keep some in the car. And I also just try to put some in every purse. Every time I carry a different purse, I'll just leave a stack of cards in there because it's like, I'm just somewhere and I'm like, I don't have a business card. So make sure that you have strategically placed your business cards in a place where you can access them and give them to people, And if
Mm.
you are, especially if you're going to conventions and different things like that, consider getting you a specialized, really nice name tag so people know
Mm-hmm.
this is Ren Judah, and I am with the Hebrew Woman Network or whatever, you want to make sure people know who you want people to know your name, especially when name and brand recognition are important to you. If you're doing things that people need to know your name, or you want to be known in the industry, make it easy for people. Get a name tag. And a lot of times it'll make you stand out because nobody else has one. You just have a cute little tag sitting there at the lapel of your suit or whatever. It definitely makes an impression
Hmm.
or on your pocket. So that's something to consider. Um, Meeting behavior, arrive early and on time, because guess what? You get to see how everybody comes in the room. You get to peep their body language. You get to peep. You'll also learn a lot about your team when you put yourself in a position to monitor them. And that might sound like, oh, micro. No, you want to see how you want to know your team. You habits are, because you might not be able to arrive early every single time, but I would make it my business to do so. From definitely going forward, I'll do my best to get to meetings early. Now, sometimes people have a tendency to invite you to things at the last minute. I will say I think that's purposeful sometimes. However, when you can arrive early, it sets the tone. You give yourself the ability to get up, get set up. If you're a person who set up a laptop or whatever you do, set up your meeting notes, do that. Make sure that and if you're not a person who's going to carry a bag or a tote, make sure you get a binder. I mean, one of those portfolio cases. Let me see. So, like one of these, I ordered this on Amazon. It's a little clipboard portfolio case,
Mm-hmm.
and because I had the paper ones that I would get from TJ Maxx, and they would get wet, and then that little cardboard be all messed up. So I just got something that it can get wet, and I can have and I can have paper on here so that I can, make notes and stuff. And it's really nice. It has a place where you can even have business cards in here. It has a holder for that, and it has a pocket, and then you can. It's a clipboard.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
and you can put your stuff in there. So just something that if you're not going to carry a purse, you can have something like this and you're able to put things in it, because a lot of times during meetings they pass out meeting notes, or you might want to keep packets of whatever they give you at the meeting. You could just put it in your folder, and it has the little snap where if the pocket isn't big enough to hold it,
Yeah.
you can just, and I'll put the link to that, and I'll get these links and stuff together and share that too, because that is something that's really professional looking, and it's something that if you just want to shoot out with that. So let's see, we covered media behavior. When you are on virtual meetings, this is really hard because most of us don't want to be on camera. I'm in virtual meetings myself a lot of times where I don't have my camera on, and I'm really going to get away from doing that. I'm really going to work on having my camera on because it not only will you find that most people are not on camera in meetings, you being on camera makes you stand out as a leader because you're present and you're showing
Normally,
I'm
what
here.
will happen with that is it takes maybe one or two people to turn their cameras on. Normally, I will
Hmm.
go in there and I will make a point to turn my camera on. And when I do, then other people, it take one by one, they'll start turning their cameras on.
Yeah,
But if I
and
don't do it, they won't.
exactly. And in a lot of cases with a lot of teams, I notice even if you do turn yours on, they won't. But that's why you're the leader. That's why
Mm,
you are.
yep.
And if you want to push it, you can just say everybody turn on your cameras. But I don't do that. I just let people show up how they're going to show up because we see this is, and I think that is if you think about it, whether you realize it or not, that's a power move in itself. That you
Yeah.
are present, they can see you, and when you are on camera, you make sure you look good. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
you
And
know.
I make a point to address everyone, to talk to everyone in the meeting and see what's going on with them, and hey, this is what we're doing, and then I'll go from basically because every department is represented in the meeting. And right now, I'm thinking specifically about the meetings that I have that are, that would be in a video setting. But those
Hmm.
meetings I have usually they're with because we will as managers have like all the managers have a meeting with our boss, but then like I will go back and then I have a meeting with like a separate group that I have a
Hmm.
meeting with, and it's kind of a coordination type meeting with what all we're doing, and to make sure do y'all need anything, or any deliverables that anyone's expecting, that type of thing, and making sure that we're all on the same board, on the same page with what needs to be done and sent out and that type of.
And it can be really difficult, but you
Oh
really
yeah.
want to make sure. And I say for me that because a lot of times when I'm in meetings, especially if they're virtual, there's always a lot of distractions, people knocking on the door. Just making sure I eliminate that distraction by simply
Oh
making sure
yeah.
my door says in the meeting or that I'm turning my phone off so that it doesn't. And I always do when I go in
Hmm.
meetings and even when I go to class, I make sure my phone is on silent because I don't want my phone disrupting the class. Every blue moon you might forget, but really you want to work on making sure you eliminate those distractions, turn off your devices, and be fully present. Another tip
Hmm.
for meetings is to sit at the end of a row or an aisle seat if you want strategic access, because you may need to get
Yeah.
up and see somebody, you want to get up and shake their hand, or you want to give them your card, or you want to go speak to someone. Sit on the end so you can get up and move around. Give yourself that
Always speak.
mobility.
Always find someone to speak to, at least one somebody.
Mm.
I try to
So
always find someone to speak to.
tell us a little more about that, Zell, because I think that's a great tip.
If there's someone there that's new, and this is something I've learned, and it kind of goes with what I was talking about earlier. But if there's someone that's new to the group, or new to the company, new to the association, you want to go because that is a potential resource for you. This is someone, hey, that can we can build a relationship, and you want to be able to hey, if you need anything, just let me know. I'm there, and then that way you're building a bridge, and eventually you're going to build kind of like a support system,
Yep.
and y'all can all work together. So every time somebody comes, make a point to, hey, how you doing? My name is so and so. I do this, and this. My office is over at blah 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 blah. I just want to welcome you to the company and let you know if you need anything, just give me a call. I know this. There's a lot of moving parts. You got a lot going on, but whenever you get a chance, just call me. And if you have any questions, I'm here to ask. I'm here for you to ask me anything.
Yep.
And they're
Got to get
usually
over your
thankful for
shyness.
that.
Yep.
Oh
Get
yeah.
over being shy. If you're going to be a leader, you need to practice introducing yourself to people. What one thing I do when I'm in the elevator, if I see people I don't know and I've ran into them a few times, I go ahead and introduce myself and I'll say, "Where do you work at?" And there you go, conversation gets started. And if I see them again, if I forget their name, I ask them. I was like, I forgot your name. What's your name again? And then I'll say it. And then I that's why I started practicing mnemonics with people's names because it's easy to forget people's names. So I'll look for something to associate with them so to help me remember their name. So do that. If it's a relative's name, okay, this is Bill. Bill lives on the hill, bald headed Ted,
Mm,
Fred, however you got to do it to help
yeah.
you remember these people's names, you know.
And one of the things I will say, one of the things that people appreciate is if you're the person that's friendly, down to earth, easygoing, is everybody, they're going to really enjoy and prefer that over whenever, because one of the issues I've seen is you'll have this group of people where everybody's arrogant, and the person
Mhm.
that's nice and open and easy to talk to is going to be the one that they're going to flock to over everybody else trying to be
Yep.
arrogant and uppity and all of that. And so before you know it, the other groups are like, well, why is it that everybody's, and it's like, well, she's actually nice.
Yeah.
I actually
Everybody
help people.
know your
Then you can
name. They know your
yeah.
name. And like over your boss, and they're like, "Well, wait a minute, how's this person?" And that's too. You have to watch that too. That's how you can kind of end up becoming a target too, because why are they so popular? But
Yep.
when you're in part of a secure leadership team, they like that you're known. They like that people, because that's less people bothering them, and it's more recognition for their
Yep.
organization. Like when you have a competent leader, they want competent people, and they want people who are out here making their company look good. Effective
Hmm.
leadership understands that when the team looks good, they look good. You make wise choices.
Exactly.
You hire professionals. And that's something that
Hmm.
a lot of organizations fail to do. They tend to have, that's why that book, I like that book, The No Asshole Rule. And even when you
Hmm.
see Patrick Lencioni talking about the ideal team player, you find in organizations, if it's inundated with assholes, it's because there's an asshole sitting at the top. He literally said that assholes hire assholes. So you can
Yeah.
tell a culture of a place based on leadership. So the mentality of leadership, the people are a reflection of the leadership that they have.
And when
And so,
someone calls you, I mean, when they tell you, hey, you'll tell them, ask me anything. I know there's a
hmm
lot going on. I said, even if there's something I don't know, just ask me and I can tell you who to go ask. And when you do that,
hmm
when they call you to ask you, I mean, I have had questions, I mean, really, really basic, simple questions that people just didn't know and they were too embarrassed to ask somebody else. And when
yeah,
they realize I can ask her and she's not going to look at me funny or belittle me because it sounds stupid. Let them know, hey, don't have to worry about. You can ask me anything. It doesn't matter. That's fine. You can, I'll answer any questions you got. Don't worry about it. And when they start doing it, they try it with something simple. Hey, what do I do about it? I mean, just it could be anything random. They'll ask you something simple, and you're nice and really easy about it. Make them feel good about it. You got a friend for the whole time.
and literally be like, if it's a question you're too embarrassed to ask in front of the group,
Yep.
I say, I will sit here and you can come and ask me after the meeting. I'm available. I'll sit here and give
Mhm.
you guys a few minutes. So if somebody wants to stop and talk to me, you can ask your questions that you didn't want to ask in front of everybody.
Yep.
You know, but
Yeah, because there's another manager there that I'm working with right now. He's struggling with how to make changes and how to learn. There's a lot to learn, and and we were talking just last week about. He came in. I was like, look, and I was showing him how I make certain decisions, and because he was
mhm,
kind of curious about that. I showed him. And he was like, and I was like, next time something comes up, I'll show you what I do. And then that way he can repeat my process, my thought process for stuff. And when they can come to you and, it's not going to be something that everybody doesn't have to know. And it's not a
right,
big deal. And, but, the only downside to that is sometimes it can be a little bit irritating when all of a sudden you look up and it seems like everybody's asking me questions.
yeah,
But there's a good side to it.
yeah. So these are the things that next week we'll pick up on some boundary setting tools and tips,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes it's hard to say no, or you're trying to find ways to politely decline invites, or if you're a person like me, you don't participate in the holidays. How can you gracefully extract yourself from those situations, but still be part of the team and be known as a team player? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, not participating in holiday parties and things will have people thinking that you're antisocial. And there are
Yeah.
ways to negate that. Like, first of all, you could be the one to organize the potluck. I've done that. You could be the one to bring donuts on Wednesdays. You can bring everybody muffins one day. There are a lot of doing little things like that keeps you from being labeled as antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a baker, bake cookies for everybody. There are a lot of little things you can do to negate some of that, to offset, because these holidays are really important to a lot of people. So just like it's really important for someone like me not to celebrate, um, you not accepting things that they want to give you, they take that as a rejection. But if you can
Yeah.
smooth it out for them, they appreciate it.
Oh yeah,
So
I agree.
So it's all about making yourself available, presentable, and even if going to lunch with your colleagues every now and then. It's not something you have to do all the time, but do a team lunch. You come up with creative ideas to where you are acting as a team player, where you are interacting actively with the team. And so then you have it. Oh, she's nice, she's friendly. Oh, she just don't do Christmas, but other than that, she good. She bought us donuts. So you really want to create a good balance. It's all about balance. Okay.
Mm.
So thank you for watching, everybody. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you next Sabbath. We're really going to work on doing more content during the week. Maybe some little shorts or something here and there to pop on with my thoughts and how I'm navigating this terrain of leadership. So thanks for watching. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We will pick up on chapter 5 next week, or maybe even tomorrow if we can. But for sure, we did the law of navigation last time. So if you guys want, go back and do a little refresher, and let's get caught back up and continue with the series for sure. Okay.
Okay.
Shalom.